Hello, I'm Justin. This is Kellan. Welcome to The Fizz. Kellan, impossible to ignore because this is a video podcast. You have joined your brethren in the community of Baldness, and I would like to extend on behalf of everybody just the warmest welcome and embrace. You did it.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
Feels great. Feels very freeing. I still have like what I imagine people feel like when they lose a limb or something terrible like that, where it's like, it still feels like I have hair there. So every once in a while I'll do this, like to try to like move my hair over. I'm like, wait, there's nothing.
Because you do that.
Nothing's there to do that with, so I can't move it. But yeah, so made that decision. Had my daughter and my son cut it off.
Oh, that's cute.
And my wife helped them along that path, so they had fun with it. I just don't want to like cut it and scare the bejesus out of them,
right?
Which is a real thing. I remember when my dad cut his beard off, like when I was a kid, it scared the crap out of me.
That happened to me.
Who is this guy?
I used to, I used to have a massive beard.
Yeah.
And when our boys were really little, I cut it really short, like I have it now. And there was like definitely like, who's that?
You got some looks. You're just like, I think I'm traumatizing my kids.
This was a lot all at once.
Yeah. So yeah, I did that. I feel very good. Yeah, I definitely feel like a similar feeling that I had when I started writing on LinkedIn, where I just like was overwhelmed by like the opinions of others, and like being judged, and and not so much of an opinion of like, well, what does this mean for me?
Right.
Like what, do my feelings matter here? And so, yeah, I kind of just said, look, this is, the hair's going away. It's happening.
Yep.
It's thinning or whatever. And I could keep researching options for how I get it back.
Right.
Which ain't happening.
Yep.
Or I could cut it off and like feel more free and like not think, care about more of how I feel about it. And same thing on LinkedIn. Like I got told my stuff was like AI generated and low engagement numbers and whatever. And I just kept at it. And now I feel like I'm starting to find a groove and get my voice back, from years of being told I wasn't a good writer and stuff. And
right. And
then before that being told I was a great writer. So like, it doesn't matter what people say. It matters what you think. Assuming you're not doing anything that's hurting other people, which I'm not. Right. Start writing on LinkedIn, cutting my hair off. Does not affect other people. Just doesn't. So yeah, it's been a kind of like a personal journey. I know we talked about it on the golf course. Like, what should I do? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously you're bald, so.
I'm biased. I am bald for a long. I lost my hair early.
I think honestly, it's probably harder for a younger person because, dating prospects and things like that. Yeah. Whereas I have an established family. So the bar is, I think, easier for me to overcome than probably you'd had when you were younger. But, yeah, it's a thing. It's not an easy decision, but just kind of went with it. And just like on LinkedIn, like I was like, if people want to say it's AI or whatever, I don't care. Yeah. I think it's been a fun journey. Just starting Tiny Bottle has been like a lot of like, you can't do this.
Sure.
Or, even internally, like I won't make enough money or I won't make the kind of impact I want to make. It's like, no, I will until I don't. Like, why start with the negative,
Right.
And I kind of just turning over that leaf in every aspect of my life best I can. And just even with like the outreach stuff, I've been trying to outreach, do outreach. I'm not good at sales. I don't really want to sell to people.
Right.
And my hope is that like the thing that we could do for them is the selling point, but that's not always the case, unfortunately. Sure. People do need to kind of be sold in a sense. Even if people are like, I hate being sold to, it's like, yeah, but that's kind of that's how you buy things. Like, if like people didn't put price tags on things at the grocery store, you probably wouldn't buy them. So, and it just levels of this. There's levels of sales, right? Yeah. Pushy salesman. Like, I don't want to be a car dealer, but it's not a comfortable place. And so I've been doing that. I feel like my confidence is going up in that. And just, it's been a great year. Just keep the vibes going. Cut the hair off, keep posting stuff about my thoughts on LinkedIn and whatever. and keep talking to people about AI and how I think it can help.
Well, as we've long said, haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. I just,
Kudos,
kudos,
out of
man.
the bag.
Yep. Kudos, man. Welcome to the club. Keep being
Thank you.
Thank you. Same kind of stuff. People want to drop in my DMs and tell me the business. It's like, okay, have a nice day. Unfollow me. It's like
very solvable. Very solvable problem.
Yeah, this seems like a you problem. I don't know. Props. Lot to go over today. Some interesting topics of discussion, I hope. More of just like a newswire thing. I don't know that this is necessarily groundbreaking because this general capability is not new. But Google has been my kind of sleeper company to watch, like personally, in the whole AI thing, just because I think they kind of have all the ingredients to kind of make a run at this. I mean, they've got enterprise applications, cloud, all these things. And then they have their own frontier models in the Gemini stack, which I think the main comparable to them is maybe like Microsoft. Of course, huge enterprise footprint, Azure, the cloud, analytic, all these things. But their AI offerings are essentially, putting other frontier model services inside of Copilot, which is starting to be a pretty good offering.
Yep.
So it's not a critique; it's just sort of a difference. But what Google announced this recently is Gemini Spark can now autonomously browse Chrome as you and log into your accounts on things like maybe the airline you use or the hotel you use, let's say booking flights or booking hotels or do other things. This isn't necessarily groundbreaking on its own because, computer use and browser use have existed for quite a while now with both Claude and OpenAI. But I think, Google's maybe doing a little bit of catch up here. But what's interesting is, AI meeting users in the product they already use, right? So a lot of people use Chrome, a lot of people have Gmail. And so this product is getting more capable. But I think, so if you are a Gemini user, like check it out. I think the question that was interesting for me here, maybe we can riff on a bit, is we've talked about this idea in different nuances, but just because AI can do something doesn't mean I want it to or that I need it to. Like a couple examples, like for me personally, because you and I, we both had the benefit of having like human executive assistants in the past. And there's enormous benefit when you have like great people supporting you. But there were still certain things. It's like, I kind of like booking my own flights, because I can, because it's usually not just, hey, like go find me a flight. It's like, I'm talking to my wife, like, oh, here, I'm going to leave at this time or whatever. And it's not difficult. Pull up the mobile app on my phone and I do it. And so I think there's things like that with AI where it's like, sure, I could ask AI to go find me a good flight to come out to Portland and see you and the dates. And I just wonder, is like, do I want it to do that? Or am I going to run into all these sort of like whoopsie daisy type things with that? And I think, you've done a lot of things with your AI assistant for it to go, handle different aspects of your life. I'm just curious, like, what's your take on how much you want AI to be kind of going and doing these types of things and versus where you'd rather do it yourself?
Yeah, that's a tough one because kind of depends on the task.
Right.
But let's just stay on the airline one because I think it's like the headline AI use case for like the last year, By the way, people must just really hate booking flights because it's like the use case for like every AI company.
Well, it feels kind of like, it feels a bit high end, I think, where it's like AI of choice, like book me a trip to Cancun for my friends and we want to leave. That's great. So the kind of the thought I wanted to go a little deeper on today from this is, and I think the booking flights is like maybe a good, very simple example to kind of tee up some of these things. Just because people have access to a tool set and just because they are using it doesn't mean that's translating into like a measurable or identifiable benefit. And so like the flight example, like in a very simple term, like you can imagine asking AI, let's say you ask an AI, it doesn't matter which one, hey, I need to take a trip to Minneapolis. Can you go find me flights and book them for me? I'm going to put on maybe a false constraint here. It's like, sure, you could just say like, go do this and just make it happen. And it just does it. But realistically, it's probably like, hey, what time do you want to leave?
ask all sorts of questions.
Okay, what time do you need to be back? Do you want to sit on the aisle, or unless you travel a lot, maybe you build all this skill. Like, so you can imagine this like quick, not hard back and forth as being like the exact same thing you would do right here.
Right.
Just going through that process. And so, now you take that very simple concept and you apply it to what's actually happening in companies. Just because people have tools and that there's measurable usage of those tools doesn't mean workflows are changing or getting better. There was a report, it came out from OpenAI that I think their enterprise team, I get a kick out of this. So they've kind of coined this category of what they call frontier firms. But everything that happens in AI apparently happens on the frontier. We got frontier AI models, we got frontier this, frontier that. So I don't know, we just love the word frontier. But they're describing them as the top 10% based on output tokens. So like they're saying like, here's how the people that are ahead with AI are the people that are using it a lot, which may or may not be true. Right. So I think there's plenty of examples that I've seen, and we've probably even talked to our clients about, where someone could be using AI in a process, and it's like the outcome of that process or the execution of that process hasn't changed. Maybe in some cases it's gotten worse. And so I think, something we've been, and this isn't really trying to force everything down to like what's the ROI type jargony question, but it's really, how do you help people step back and understand what they actually want to be different, as opposed to just saying, oh, we figured out how to use AI to do this.
It is like, from a change management and an AI adoption perspective, slow is better in a lot of cases. And a healthy dose of human in the loop is, I know it's kind of like cliche at this point.
Yeah.
But even with like really capable models, a human guidance is just critical.
Yeah.
And healthy review checkpoints. So
yeah, I think some interesting kind of juxtapositions, I think, especially we talk about like, well, let's go slow because that's a more effective, but the world of AI is moving at warp speed. So it makes you feel like you got to go fast because everything else is moving fast. But I think, in the same way that, again, tying back to sort of the small examples, like the same way when we go through and we plan our weeks, even though it's AI assisted, but like we're there making the choices, having our hands on the molding of a calendar or a task list or set of priorities. It's building a mental model around kind of what's going on. And I think some people, by maybe no fault of their own, have either sort of falsely assumed that AI is just going to be like way more capable than it's ready to be. And what I mean by that is they just kind of plug AI into like a workflow and they get it going and they try to go really fast, but they realize kind of they miss some of these prerequisite steps, like making sure the right context is there, the right rules are there, the do's and don'ts, all these very nuanced things that are very doable. But I think in a lot of the projects we've worked on, those things get discovered by going slow and incremental and small. And also having an understanding of like, we're trying to deploy AI in this workflow for these reasons.
Yeah.
We think we can handle more capacity, or we think we can do it faster, or we think the quality for the customer is going to be better for these reasons. But so I think kind of that slow, measured, very intentional approach is time tested in technology application, and it's
100%.
Very true with this. But at the same time, there is sort of, I don't want to discount the fact that there is a benefit of experimentation to a degree. Right. And so I think some organizations are doing maybe a better job than others of finding that balance point of like, how do you enable and empower your people to experiment, to try things, to fail without causing irreversible problems. Right.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of the main challenge I think that we're all facing in the business community at this point. There were a lot of reports have come out, big consulting firms have done all these studies, or some of the big Wall Street firms. Like everybody's doing AI now. Like the activity is everywhere. I think 98% of the companies that are traded on the public exchanges, they're all saying we're doing something with AI. But then just smaller and smaller subsets of them are saying like, we have a clear AI strategy, and smaller subsets, it's like we're having clear changes in these workflows, and even smaller saying like, and it's impacting our business in this way. So I think patience is a real skill in this whole thing. I think, to not feel, and I wasn't in my career, like in the .com bubble, but sort of the frenetic feeling of we have to go fast. I think that's one of the doorways into the activity trap. Gartner, a lot of people have an opinion about the quality of Gartner's research, and some love it, some hate it. But
I like this.
They did a survey, and so we've seen a lot of reports in the same vein. So they did a poll, and it said 93% of those companies reported AI use, but only 38% reported having a strategy. And so
call us.
Yeah, give us we can help you. I think it was a bit tongue in cheek in other technologies to say like, we need to align the BI implementation to your business strategy. And like, because AI can be applied so broadly in so many different ways and do so many different things, like it's essential. Otherwise you're kind of you're in Vegas at the casino floor, pulling the handle at the machine, hoping something's going to stick. And I think like ownership of
that is an approach.
It is.
I advise against it.
Right. It is something you could do.
Yeah.
But it sort of skips like important questions like, do we have clarity on who is the owner that's responsible for the outcomes of this workflow? Have we got them fully up to speed and enabled to run this? Because I think some of the mistakes I've heard about, I haven't necessarily participated in this type of situation yet, I guess I did maybe in the BI era. There's a project, it gets outsourced to a vendor, and they build something, and they build a set of agents, and they bring it back, and the people that are accountable for it, they're like, don't understand how this works. And so like getting the people involved, so there's ownership there. Some of our clients, they have to be accountable to, SOC, different compliance issues with SOC and things like that. And so like those things need to be carefully considered. And so things like compliance, legal ramifications, or potential exposures in different scenarios, those help inform the strategy that empowers you to enable your people with things like training. So here, Kellan, we're going to train you how to use Microsoft Copilot Cowork at the highest level possible. And here's kind of the guiding principles that make sense for your role in your company, so that you can have your personal strategy and you can go off and kind of understand how to thread that needle, so to speak. But if it's just, experimentation gone wild, you're creating a lot of future non-value add work there, in my opinion, of like corralling all of that later.
Yeah.
So,
and trying to maintain it, and
you
got to teach other people downstream what's going on. I think people get wrapped around the axle. Wrapped around the axle when it comes to accountability, especially these days. It just seems like accountability is like, people have a hard time with it.
Right.
It's just a noun.
Right.
Like, I think the meaning is more important, which is like clarity of ownership is really what accountability is. Like, and it's good for everyone. It doesn't mean like you're going to get fired or anything like that. Like, that could happen anyways. This doesn't add that. This doesn't add that potential. It makes it clear, like, this is what I need to do to make sure that I'm doing a good job for this company or myself. Like, that's all it does. It's just clarity of ownership. And that needs to happen with AI as well. And we talked about like more extreme examples, like at Meta, where they're blaming AI for firings and things like that. But it's like, okay, someone was in that prompt. Someone was deciding that. They just refused to have like some type of accountability built into the org chart for that. Which is, not good. But from a strategy perspective, I think it helps guide, like you said, like what your personal AI strategy is at the company and how you can leverage it in the right ways. Does not mean that you need to be building apps. Does not mean you need to skillify every workflow you have. It means something maybe potentially different for every person, depending on your role. And there's a responsibility of the company as well to like guide that AI strategy and make it somewhat easy to consume. so that people, this is not just AI. I mean, there isn't just like company level strategy that needs, like, how do we leverage our people? This is a component of that.
Right.
And just given how capable AI has become, it's just a necessary part of that picture now.
Yeah. Something I find myself like constantly coming back to when I'm talking to people or thinking about AI and, through a strategic lens is the value of getting out of the chat and really, really doing your own thinking. And like a version of that applies to this context, I think we had some conversations like this last week in our workshop where you realize like, hey, we maybe could, you could see a situation where like you're in a very capable harness and you say like, I have this process and I want you to help me. I want you to be able to run it. And you very quickly realize like, you don't understand the process very well yet.
Yeah.
Right. Or you realize and you like take a lot of things for granted about exceptions and, loopholes in this process. Right. And so, taking the time to really think, okay, where is the boundary of AI's involvement in a process? Some things that can be very wide and it can handle a great deal of it. Sometimes I think more often than not, it's like a small specific part of a process. And then you can build from there. And then the next small specific part of that process. And just, writing down or talking with your team, like what are we actually trying to move here? What are we looking for when all this is done? Because it's one thing, I don't think it's very difficult anymore to prove like, can AI blankety blankety blank? If it involves a computer, the answer is probably yes. Right. Now what needs to happen to get it there is a different story, but it's like, okay, if we do that, what does that allow us to do? Or what does it allow us to do? And I'm not saying everything needs to be quantifiable returns to the bottom line type thing, but just sort of like, as leaders and critical thinkers, like, yeah, this is worth doing.
Yeah, and I think like identifying the areas where your brain is at the most engaged in that workflow is really an important exercise, because that will tell you that's the part where I can't put AI.
Right.
I need to be engaged in that step because I add value there.
Right.
Now, if it's like pulling this report, putting it into 15 spreadsheet tabs, like there might be some gray area there, sure.
Right.
But if you go down that path, you're like, there's no gray area. It's just, I got to go here, put the dates, and then like extract this CSV and blah, blah, blah. That's not value add. So like you now can say, oh, I can have a little bit more time before I prep this for my executives or whatever the case may be. So like, I think that like value shift of like, okay, AI is going to do the stuff. Where can I now reallocate my time to add value and be a superstar and all those kind of things, and meet the whatever directive the company has on their AI strategy as well, obviously. So everyone's aligned.
Right. I have a friend who's been looking for a new job, and they received. I haven't heard this before. I'd heard that people were doing this, but he got one of these like,
the AI interviews,
screening call with an AI. And brutal. They told me about it, and the conclusion was having that call felt worse than getting ghosted.
Wow. It's hard to put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, I feel like I can empathize a little bit where I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
I'm just going to say no.
It's like, I always tried, it's easier said than done. Because I've had to manage hiring processes at a number of different companies I've been with through my career. And it's very hard to understand what the right level of empathy is to the candidate. A lot of jobs, they get flooded with far more applications than could possibly get reviewed for the position. And so like the way you tell people they didn't get selected, the way people get rejected, like, or the way people, it's like, oh, I can't believe they didn't take the time to fill out our whole thing. It's like, yeah, but this person's applying to like 100 jobs a day. Like, do we want to talk to them? Maybe. So I just think from a candidate, when you do get invited to a screening call, that's a mini win for someone in that process. You're like, oh, cool. Like I made it past this ATS machine or whatever, but then to be greeted with a robot.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like, I'm not even talking to a real person. Like, I can ask my questions, but I'm getting these like boilerplate answers. I'm not getting a vibe from like someone who works there. And so personal opinion, like I can rationalize maybe why people are trying this, but I think that this is maybe one of categorically the absolute worst applications possible of this tool.
Yeah, it's just hard to hear. Just coming from like where my perspective, where I really think AI can do a lot of positive things. That ain't one of them. And it's just hard to hear. Like I could see it from both sides in a sense. Like I can screen more people just to try to get a better fit.
Right.
Without like, causing too much costs and it just kind of spiraling out of control or whatever cost wise. I can see it obviously very easily from the candidate's perspective. Like you can't even, like, if you thought I was good enough to talk to, why couldn't you talk to me?
Right.
So it's like, it's just not very, like the transparency is just horrible. And I don't know, maybe they were transparent. Like like you're going to talk to a robot first. That'd be better if they said, but I don't know if that happened. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or it wasn't clear enough that like they showed up surprised, right? So like it wasn't clear enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you're like that, yeah, it's so weird. Then you're having a game, an interview with a model,
right?
And you're like the incentives have changed.
It's meta, but I know from my own conversations there are leaders that find themselves tap dancing in these situations, and strategy can help kind of position you to be prepared for what your point of view is or what your opinion is about different topics in the AI
it's really
space.
Good. So good. Love that.
I think the important thing is you have an opinion, you understand why you have that opinion, because then it's like the same thing of why employees value having a company with like a clear vision, because everybody can see what we're trying to do. I think an AI strategy can serve a very similar purpose. It's like everybody can see what we're trying to do with AI, what we're not trying to do with it, how we're going to go about it, how we're empowering our people, keeping them safe, and make the story just down to earth and real.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying like, hey, we're trying to automate this portion of your work because we'd rather you shift to this other category of work. But don't say like, oh, you're going to be able to do your job from your mobile phone, hiking the Rocky Mountains. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And I think most people, they want to work. They like value being a part of something and all of that. So, but I think these are the problems we're really excited about. The technology is so capable. I just think it's all this other stuff around it and how you find your strategy and how you start to activate that within what you're doing is spend your time on that.
Yeah. I mean, like I'd rather have cyborgs over robots. It's a horrible kind of, but like, I would rather like have some human being in there.
Yeah.
Because it adds culture, it adds capability, it allows wisdom and experience to matter. Just like you've said many times, like the model only knows what context you give it.
Right.
But a human knows 20, 30 years of it. It doesn't just disappear. So it doesn't need a context window.
Nope.
So anyway.
Yeah. Might need a memory jog from here or there, but this is what we've been up to. It's a lot of fun, and I think my own perspective on how to approach AI has changed greatly in the last 12 months. And so I think helping people kind of go on that journey of understanding these bigger problems has been really fulfilling. So, cool. We wrestle with stuff like this every week. Share our opinions about how to move AI forward and what we're learning on the job. So if you like the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share with all your friends. Until next week, see you then.
Peace.